Hi, my name is Jenna Bosiger, and I love to study cryptids. On this episode, I want to talk about a common cryptid that's been reported not only around the United States, but also around the world. Thank you for watching my Cryptid Cryptids YouTube channel. Don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. This cryptid goes by many different names, from gnomes, fairies, the fae, trolls, elves, dwarves, leprechauns, goblins, and even the moon-eyed people. Described as a pale-faced, short, human-type creature with big eyes that lives underground during the day to avoid the light. In Indiana, they're known as Pukwudgies, and in Wisconsin, they call them Gnomes. In Tennessee, they call them pygmies, and in Appalachia, they call them the moon-eyed people. But they have many other names as well that you're all very familiar with. But not only are they reported as looking the same, but they're also reported as acting and having the same behavior. The Pukwudgie may be a cryptid of legend in the state of Indiana, but they are well acknowledged. They're said to be small, about 2 to 4 feet high, gray-skinned, goblin-type creatures. A glow hike at Mound State Park for Pukwudgies. And what I find most interesting is that it was posted by the Department of Natural Resources just last October of 2022. It's held in the twilight hours between 6:30 and 7:30 p.m. The fact that the government is even acknowledging Pukwudgies, I find to be very forward-thinking, whether it was just as a marketing ploy. I find it's a good positive step towards getting people interested in the ancient myths and legends of that ancient site and location. The Cherokee report of the little people, these short human type creatures that come up to about the knees of a human. From IndianaHistory.org blog, Pukwudgies and Where to Find Them, many indigenous people have legends of the Pukwudgies, but one of the most popular places to see them is at Mound State Park in Anderson, Indiana. And these Pukwudgies come from legends from the Lenape and people who lived in Indiana long before the white settlers. The Pukwudgies are said to be 2 to 3 feet tall goblin-like creatures that lurk in the forests and transform into animals, and they use their mischievous ways for their own good. Author and amateur archaeologist Paul Starsman claims to have encountered the Pukwudgies numerous times. He's written about his experiences and the experiences of others in his book, The Pukwudgies of Indiana. So he first encountered them in 1927 when he was only 10, when he was hiking alone on a trail in the park, and suddenly he saw a man half his size. The little man had dull blonde hair that covered his head like a helmet, which left his round ears to protrude. From press blog, Hoosier Horrors, Pukwudgie, the little men of the forest, it says, the name for these creatures means little wild men of the forest, and they are just that. The Lenape grew to fear the Pukwudgies, claiming that they were once friendly to human, but then turned on them. According to legend, if you mess with the Pukwudgies, they could trick you or even follow you and cause you harm. They've been known to kidnap people, cause harm by pushing and attacking with miniature weapons. And they even have the ability to manifest into animals to scare you away. And in Tennessee, they found a graveyard. There's a news report and others, and even picture of a pygmy graveyard in Tennessee. And it says an ancient graveyard of vast proportion has been found along found in Coffee County and is similar to those found in White County and other places in Middle Tennessee, but is vastly more extensive and shows that the race of pygmies who once inhabited this country were very numerous. The same peculiarities of position observed in the White County graves are found in these. The writer of the letter says, "Some considerable excitement and curiosity took place a few days ago near Hillsboro, Coffee County, on James Brown's farm. A man was plowing in the field, which had been cultivated many years, and plowed up a man's skull and other bones. After further investigation, they found there were about 6 acres of graveyard. They were buried in a sitting or standing position. The bones show that they were a dwarf tribe of people about 3 feet high, and it is estimated that there were about 75 to 100,000 buried there. This shows that this country was inhabited hundreds of years ago." Blue Ridge Mountain Travel Guide.com, Moon-Eyed People, Cherokee Legends, describes a race of pale-skinned humanoids with bearded faces and large blue eyes. They were said to be short with small round bodies. Legend describes them as a separate race of people rather than the supernatural beings. Some historians believe the Moon-Eyed People were simply the early European settlers, but the stories of them date back to a time before the first pilgrims began to arrive. Wales and Ireland and Britain or Iceland or everywhere else that they're reported. Some dwarves have dealings with humans. They seem to shrink from man. They give the impression of a downtrodden, afflicted race, abandoning its ancient home to new and more powerful invaders. The character, something shy, and they chafe at human faithlessness and heathenism. It goes sorely against the dwarves to see churches built, bell ringing, disturbs their ancient privacy. They also hate the clearing of forests, agriculture, and newfangled pounding machinery for ore. And, they were popularized by J.R.R. Tolkien, but they were known to cultures long before that. A quality of passion and inspiration, also described as said to having supernatural powers. The word gnome there's etymology of knowledge, to have power, to be able, cognition, diagnosis, ennoble, gnostic, gnosis. Its opposite would be ignorant, ignore, incognito, incognable. Also, in the state of Wisconsin, there are gnomes reported, and they're reported as being hairy-faced dwarves. And it would appear that they all live underground and come out at night. They know things we don't. I believe that. This artifact is from Aztlan site in Wisconsin, up by the Great Lakes in northern Wisconsin. And this artifact resembles a gnome, even with the tall pointed hat. Fairy tales are associated with make-believe, fake, fantasy, nothing true about it. But isn't it ironic that fairy tales all have these core lessons in human morality and truth that withstand the test of time and have a lot of truth in them, in their stories about oceans and consequences for actions. And isn't it interesting as well that in Ireland that fairies are used to describe the mounds? They call them fairy mounds. And in Iceland and other places, they take this very seriously, as they should. In Wyoming and Montana, there's reports of little people, and especially in Montana, in the Pryor Mountains. They have quote-unquote fairy rings, stories, petroglyphs. Well, I'm Jenna Bosiger, and thank you so much for watching. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe if you want to hear more about cryptids and more about strange things in ancient history. Until next time, bye!